And they've been persons in reggae music's history, more so dancehall music history. You're talking executive producing albums for Amy Campos. You're talking about overseeing albums for Junior Gong. You're talking about Diana King, who she brought from demo to the Billboard charts. You're talking about Mike Cobra. You're talking about no other than Maxine Stowe. She's connected at several junctures of the music business, from Sugar Minor to her own career. Cox and Dodd is her uncle. We're going to talk to her all about her career, from the beginnings up to now. Maxine, thank you so much for coming on World Music Views.
Thanks for having me here. I do have a World Music View.
I love that. Maxine, you told me that dancehall will be celebrating 50 years in 2024, and you pocketed with a time capsule of 1974 to 2024. Tell me how you come to that date and why that time is important.
Well, I come to it from my own experience in dancehall with the 90s, when we were doing a lot of collaborations and integration with the hip hop marketplace. And so Pop 50 recently celebrated their 50-year platform, and it was built around Kool Herc and his experience in Bronx, New York, carrying the sound system energy. So after producing Roots Lovers album, I went to work with Sugar I left Mr. Dodd because I was pregnant. Mr. Dodd wasn't having Sugar become part of his business. And so I had to make a choice between Sugar and Mr. Dodd, and obviously I chose Sugar. So then I went into now the Black Roots Movement promotion. He brought me into Jamaica.
Which is the beginning of what dancehall
labels are.
Sherman Burke, when Sugar Minor died, Sherman Burke posted that the first person to tell her what dancehall is was Sugar Minor. First person to explain it to her.
Yeah, he was a living experience of dancehall. And Youth Man Promotion. So that was him exercising what he saw at Studio One. So he wanted to be the producer and the innovator of artists. A lot of them were singers as well as toasters. As you know, King Tubby's had recorded, developed the whole dub scene, which was really the dancehall scene being brought into the studio, and was the first in 1971 to record U-Roy as the first DJ on a record, right? Toasting. In terms of our time capsule of the dancehall.
Did you drop an album?
Yeah, in 1971.
71.
Right, which was really the dubs created by King Tubby, who had just experimented with Duke Reed's rhythms in this stripped down soundscape. And while playing it on his sound system, John Holt heard it and went to Duke Reed and said, you have to record King Tubby's, who was working for him, U-Roy, with these rhythms, which became now the first DJ on record. You know, so far DJ had been just on the sound system, so forth. So that Sugar Minor Black Roots Youth Man Promotion took me all to the streets, to Tubby's, to Jammies, Shaki, you know, the whole street, Tower Hill, Maxfield Park, Channel One. You know, it was like a university after going through the University of the music in New York. How Jamaican music dance
Street University.
Street University. Huge, and all the dons, George Pang, Fatis. I learned everything through him. And that led me to Skengdon label in Miami in the late 80s. And that's where I met Supercat, Nicodemus, all of these artists that really came from Hacker roots and socialist roots, because Skeng was very much coming from the political sound system history. And from Skengdon, I went into VP. Skengdon had to close down, come back to Jamaica, and he didn't really go into music so much. He went into construction, and I was having my third child at the time, my daughter, Kenlis Minot, 1987. And so I transitioned back into New York, and VP was where I grounded myself. And in grounding myself in VP and starting to work directly with them, and me and Chris, started working with the producers now. I met the producers that I met with Sugar now on another level, on the licensing and, the distribution. And at the same time is when Reggaeton started with Elena Raw.
Late 80s.
Late 80s. This is now about 89. Because 90 is when I did my first album with Columbia Records, which was a dancehall reggae Espanol record where all of the Panamanian artists on the A side and the songs that they had covered on the B side.
What's it called?
Dancehall reggae Espanol. That was my first.
I looked at that. I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
L
and a
I looked at that.
Yeah.
And I believe it's a part of the court case with Steely and Cleaving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that album.
So you executive produced?
I executive produced Dancehall reggae Espanol.
So you started Reggaeton?
I started. Well, in terms of
wait.
Reggaeton,
You executive produced Reggaeton's first album?
Along with Carol Cooper. She was the A&R at Columbia Records. And so when her boss, David Kahn, saw how I could compile not only the reggaeton, but the dancehall, that's what gave me my first job now, and my first as A&R manager. And that's when I signed Supercat, the Don Dada album. I had met and was grounded with him from Skengdon, and that carried me into Columbia.
And Don Dada was executive produced by Robert
Livingston, right.
I did interview him about the album. I spoke to him
about that, right. Well, it's him and Supercat.
Yeah, it's all of them. Yeah.
Two of them, right. But Supercat is like Sugar. Even like Bunny Wailer, you have certain artists that they're not letting go of their ownership.
Yeah, he had said that Supercat wanted to own it, but that album is 30 years this year.
Yeah.
So that's also a time capsule.
Yeah, it would be it, yes, because Dancehall 50 is really the story that I'm telling you about my background with Mr. Dodd, Sugar, and grounding it, married now to my career of this dancehall going international. Because I'm right at, Shabba is who broke first.
92 or 91?
90.
90.
Yeah, he broke first and was signed first to Epic, right? And Specialist was part of that signing. Him and Vivian Scott.
With theory, that's the man who lose Sting Clash, boss of foreign.
Yeah.
If you look back at it,
okay. Yeah, you can.
Ninja Man kill everybody. Never boss.
Because I wanted to sign Ninja Man. I was courting.
Why didn't he ever get signed?
I don't know. There was something about how he was situated in Jamaica. I don't know if it was court cases or what, but he was being offered a lot, obviously. In fact, somebody reminded me that I'm not sure if it's Sting 92, but we had signed that record, meaning we were supposed to put out Sting. We'd gone and recorded it and all of this, but I have to even, because of recently, I have to get back with Lane and find out where the tapes are at Sony
As in you guys recorded Sting.
Recorded Sting. I don't remember
So-
it was 92.
But that would be classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
Right.
Yeah, with my head going hype right now, man.
So right as I signed Supercat, and Specialist had Patra and Shaba. And so because he, then he got Cobra signed to Columbia with me. And then I signed Diana King, because Diana King was working with Shaba. She was a background singer to Shaba. But at the same time, Stephen Stewart, the engineer, had sent me a demo tape. And I was like, I gotta get her, because at the time, Mariah Carey was just being signed, Destiny Child, So I said, wow, this big voice as a Jamaican singer,
Yeah.
it could fit right in. And on another label associated with Chaos, they had Whirly Girl, Tiger, and Tony Rebel were also, being signed, and me being the Jamaican A&R, I would have had that purview. And that was when Cool Runnings, these were the projects that were coming in now. Cool Runnings, the movie, and the soundtrack absorbed up a lot of that,
Which you executive produced, Cool Runnings, which featured Jimmy Cliff.
I Can See Clear. That was a major. That's the covered and went #1, and that started my relationship with Jimmy that I took to Island Records when I left Columbia.
Did you executive produce any other Jimmy record?
No, I didn't. I just worked on Higher and Higher, which was released on Island Records, and then last year or two, I just consulted on his last album
For the Universal?
for the Universal.
Oh, wow. Was that was nominated for a Grammy?
No, it wasn't. I didn't see it nominated.
I remember seeing that. I wanted
Refugees.
Refugees. I want to go, we're going to go over time, but I need this story. Back to Reggaeton, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Reggaeton was coming and you saw them covering reggae songs, dancehall songs, did you know it was going to be a big genre?
Yeah, I knew it was huge because remember, it's Jamaican Panamanians. Because I went to Panama as part of the project. I actually went to do research in Panama. And when I realized that it was Jamaicans who had migrated to Panama to build the canal, these were their children and grandchildren who lived in Jamaican homes in Panama. So they knew Patois as well as they knew the Spanish. And so that's where that natural use of the music came from.
That same cadence and rhythm.
Right. And it came together in New York. Right? It wasn't that the music was being made in Panama. This music was being made in New York because of that Caribbean integration into New York, from Trinidad. The whole Caribbean is in New York. So, but they made me understand that Latin market, and that because in Sony, Colombia, I always knew about the Latin division located in Miami. And it was always a strong division, but you never really penetrated and understood it. But it was just like the Jamaican, but huge, because you have these Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Colombians, And then so I got an understanding that from the sale of Putuntun, El General, how huge. He was selling like thousands and thousands, much more than Shaba Super in their market. It wasn't being recorded in Billboard and Hot R&B, but the sales were huge. So what I see happening now, I understand how huge those markets are and how huge their diasporas are in America to influence
how the music is consumed.
Who
were the big artists then in reggaeton that had to?
What happened is that the Panamanians who were black crossed over to the Puerto Ricans. So that's Daddy Yankee and that who the other names are. But if you look at it, the biggest, like Bad Bunny, Puerto Rico, right? So the Puerto Ricans, another Caribbean country, it's not like it's the biggest ones are coming from Colombia or certain places. If you know, it's dominated by Puerto Rico because Puerto Rico is still in our axis of being a
It's right there.
It's right there.
Yeah. It's right.
And they're right here in New York, and they're right here, you know,
They're the
culturally.
neighbors. Like everywhere Jamaicans are.
Puerto Ricans are. So for me, it's a natural occurrence in terms of experience. Have we exploited it? From a Jamaican perspective, that's what we haven't done. We haven't, these things are just happening organically. It's not happening because I, as a Jamaican, am investing in making this happen. It's just like a wave coming.
Like there aren't any more collab albums like with El General.
Exactly.
Right.
Nobody researching it and right, exactly. So in my mind,
Do you think more of that is needed now?
yes, that's where I saw my career now. I saw my career and what I was looking at Dancehall 50 and why I was looking at the dancehall and conceptualize the Dancehall Music Museum is I wanted to show literally and logically and organically our influence. But not just to show it, but to also now, how do we Google it? Meaning, how do we create our Google over our influence? It may not necessarily be, I think first it is to document it so that that world, the Afrobeat world, the Reggaeton world, can understand the root of it. Because I see Bad Bunny, for example, in his interviews, say, somehow he knows it comes from Panama. But it's not because it's something being promoted. I just found out that there's a Dancehall Reggae Espanol museum.
Yeah.
Just about Dancehall Reggae Espanol that is now being put up in Panama because Panama has to show its roots. But you don't hear of a Panamanian reggaeton artist breaking.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So back to the album thing, right? That first album. Why wasn't there a follow-up?
Because we didn't. El General was the most successful artist.
And this was Columbia Records. Right?
Columbia Records, and we couldn't get him to sign because he was being signed by one of the Latin labels. That's how I know that how those Latin labels are huge.
And they're loyal to
their core, you know? So I hardly think any reggaeton person is signed directly by the American labels. It's the American label Latin division. And that's my whole headspace also about why isn't there a merger of an international label for the Jamaican? You know what I'm saying? That type of integration. But I know it has to do with size. Jamaica doesn't have a market that's big enough, like a natural market like Nigeria or South Africa where you have 200 million people or 40 million people. We only have 3 million. And so our geographic size literally defies that type of natural, development.
In come Diana King.
Diana King.
Tougher than love.
But Diana King was part of the dancehall energy. I even have a critique of her that I didn't want her to rap, but she forced. If you listen to Shy Guy or enough of her songs, there's a rap component to it. And I said, just sing like Mariah. Mariah is not Patra. You know what I mean? I went in with her, but I understood culturally she had to do that. But she was.
But you said she brought, you did a demo, you called her up, she hung up the phone on you.
Yes, she could be, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, like I said, I got it from Stephen Stewart. Him and Larry O'Hare had been working with City Heat Band and were aware of her. and they were producing some songs with her, which I liked, and I presented to my head of A&R. He was into it, and so I called her, and she wasn't, because I knew she was on the Shabba tour doing background vocals, and somehow I got connected with her, and she thought it was like a prank call, or and then I think a couple of times, and then she called,
She hung up the phone.
she hung up. And then
And he called her back.
actually we had a problem, and that is a whole nother segment about female artists in Jamaica and the obstacle courses, for their development. But I almost couldn't sign her because my boss saw her on the Shabba tour with Shabba whining on her on a speaker box. And he said no. He actually, the deal was gonna be lost because he said, but there's no perception for her to be a star if you're showing, if this is what is happening with her. And I had to get with David Sonnenberg.
This is the boss at Sony.
Sony, that my boss.
You want to call his name?
David Kahn, and I was so disappointed, and I reached out through my attorney, Max Silver, and he knew David Sonnenberg. He had managed the Fugees at the time, and it was through linking Diana with David Sonnenberg that brought back the reality of the deal, and had gotten her signed because of that. But it's a critical point in my head about female artists and how they're treated in the Jamaica space. And it's still an open subject, you know what I mean, in terms of how patriarchal, but how not even the society but the studio, how the recording process occurs, and what the female has to go through to get recorded. And then even once successful, they'll get in a relationship, even like myself, I got in a relationship with Sugar, that if you're not strong, you know what I mean, the man is gonna say, no, I don't want nobody looking at you. The jealousy between the producer and the artist steps in, and an artist has to be Beyonce, you know what I mean, they have to be attractive to men. So I find that the Jamaican producer-man relationships shut down the women. You know what I mean? And that's my peeve about Jamaican music. Not just because it shuts down the women, but the women's melody on the music is not there as a selling point for the genres. You understand? The female voice is a major tool in the development of a music genre. So Jamaica's music genres are, you have one or two females that bust out, but that outside of just the woman thing, the melody that they carry is a whole limitation of where music can go. So when I saw Rihanna break through, you know what I mean? And I said that was what I had in mind for Diana. And I would say that Diana's reluctance to be fully Americanized was her, limitation, because her voice was big enough to just be, but culturally she couldn't let go, and that's a part about Jamaican music too, which is why I got so involved in wanting the museums to rise up, so that we could tell our story and to free up our artistic base to say, yes, we have enough people to hold our culture. So if you see the one or two that can pop out, because they're gonna still pull up the rest of us that will never be able to go too far because of our restriction of size. So even the Afro beats, like what I see happening with Tyler and Thames and, you know, all that energy, I know that that is there for our Jamaican females, but that
Small island.
small
thinking.
island thinking, which is real. It's not just like, oh, you're small island. You are a small island, and your thinking is affected because you are a small island. It's only because we are diaspora people that we are able to extend. And, you know, that's what this whole Dancehall 50 is about, you know, for me.
This is what your story's about.
And my,
I think this is such brilliance and education for the new artists. Income Motown. You were saying something?
yeah, as I'm working now with an artist called Manifa. I'm not working with her, my daughter is, you know, and it pains me to see that she, as a young female artist, is going through the same exact despair. You know, I'm looking to see how I can pull up, but it's not even just me personally want to pull her up. It's just me personally viewing the situation for the female artists being still at this stage. You know, I'm trying to see how to work her into the Dancehall 50. You know, because I'm looking for 2 or 3 young artists that, as this campaign goes forward, you know, how it can pull up, you know, at least 2 or 3 people with the type of thinking that we're looking to generate out of this space.
Motown.
Motown
Tell
is
me how
about
that
island
deal.
story. Island. I
So
left
you were at
Colombia.
Ireland. You left Colombia, went
Went to Island working.
in Colombia. You had Ida Kamosi, who had Dancehall's first hit song.
Right.
You had Diana King. You had Matt Cobra.
At Cobra.
You had Tony Rebel.
At Supercat, because even though Supercat didn't sell, Supercat is Sean Paul.
Facts. The
Yes, I
genesis
said
of
the
Sean.
genesis of
Yeah.
Sean Paul.
He said it.
Supercat. Yeah.
Sean Paul said
Said it, yeah.
every song he sings, he
The
tries
intonations in the Indian
Yeah.
vocal arrangement,
and it resonates with
it resonates.
It's
with me.
reson- yeah,
So every
yeah.
time I mean, it was jealousy in the first, but then I see it's nature in the,
Yeah.
it's just natural.
And now every song Supercat, not Supercat. Sean Paul said, "Hey girl." Yeah, so don't worry about the time, boss. We're good, all right. Let's get to
Island
into Motown.
Island into Motown is Dancehall Queen was my first project on Island, and that was the whole movie. Again, a dancehall driven platform. Sly and Robbie is why I got to Island. They prompted Chris and prompted me that you got to get that girl from Stowe in Colombia and bring her into Island to, you know, pull it
So
together.
they saw you, went after you,
Went after
bring you
me.
to Island.
Yeah, they had just got Murder She Wrote going on, and but I know them from Sugar again because we did all the Herman Hustling, and Sly and Robbie was the backbone of the dancehall.
Plus, you selling all these gold and platinum records.
You know what I
Every
mean?
label
Every
is trying to.
Trying to, you know. So I go to Island, and that's when I meet up with Stephen Marley and Damien and them. And Stephen was just, and Damien were just bursting into the dancehall energy. And they wanted to do a remix of Bob Marley's album. And there was a kind of, oh, don't mix Bob Marley with anybody, and, you know, kind of energy. But because of my relationship with the hip hop artists from Colombia, and they were into the scene with Inner Circle and DJ Khaled in Miami, so they were just bursting, you know, at what they've become now, you know. And so that album, Chant Down Babylon, brought me and Steve together, youths working together at Island.
Which that album is one of the most successful reggae albums.
As well, yeah.
It had a DVD.
Yes, well,
While doing all of them.
that the tribute concert
Which
that was done.
is sold gold.
So
The
right,
DVD itself sold gold.
Yeah.
And the album sold.
right.
Which I don't think There's another artist that sold gold with a DVD from Jamaica.
Jamaica.
The Sting probably
Would have done it.
but yeah.
Yeah, and
Trying to
then,
get Babylon.
right. So through that experience with Chanting on Babylon, we worked with Lauryn Hill, Erica Badu, Cheeks, Busta Rhymes, Rakim, the cream of the crop of
Beatbox guy, what's his name again?
um,
Dougie Fresh.
Dougie Fresh. And so the natural thing would be for Steven now to be the bar. Like this, the follow-up album should have been Steven now with the hip-hop people. And at the same time, he did a song with Erica Badu that burst out on Motown label. And so Kedar Massenberg saw the relationship, and he was into the neo-soul with India Irie and so on. So he actually saw in Steven this vocalizing,
The Wailing.
the way. So Steven had his get it with Damien, and Damien was popping, more very much in the dancehall, energy.
Damien told me Super Cat is his influence.
Is when exactly, because when we did the deal at Motown, we signed a little deal for Steven, Damien, and we were able to do 3 other artists. We went after Supercat first. That was one of our first, because I wanted Supercat as well. They wanted Supercat, and but Supercat was then being picked up by I forgot the hip hop producer. He just did a deal with one of those top hip hop producers.
I know what you're talking. It's not Hit Boy. It's I know what you're talking.
Right.
He did an album with Nas.
With Nas, right?
And I did a remix. New Way I Got. Was it Salam Remy?
No, not Salam Remy. Did he just do that clothing line with Louis Vuitton? What?
Pharrell.
Pharrell.
Yeah.
Pharrell. Yeah. Pharrell signed it. And then we were working on Yami Bolo, because Yami Bolo had done a duet with Damien. But what happened is Damien album came out first. They wanted Steven.
And you executive produced
Damien Halfway Tree album. And then my uncle got an offer from Virgin, Mr. Dodd, to do a major platform with his label, offer the Buena Vista Social Club, what Cuba had done with its roots music, and establish this global platform for Cuban music, roots music. So they wanted to do the same thing with Mr. Dodd and his label. And so I said, I want to go work with Mr. Dodd. But within the deal of that label, somebody bought out, I think, Virgin Records, EMI, and the staff left, and then they weren't so much interested to continue that deal. And so I just found myself in Jamaica with Mr. Dodd. This is post Motown. And that's when my focus on museum, because of his legacy, intellectual property rights, brands, and just my idea that how can I assist Jamaica.
Well, Maxine, the story you just told the world, I don't know if you realize it's a museum by itself. From Rasta business, to sugar miners, to Fiji, to Colombia, to Ireland, to Motown. That's 6 successful and interesting dynamics that you maneuvered.
And a full circle. As you said, starting with Mr. Dodd and Bunny, because my last major project obviously was Bunny Wailer, and his legacy is putting together.
Put together. I thought it was an album.
No.
Put together his whole
narrative.
Yeah.
And the last production I could say that I did was the Wailers Trio, which is a tribute group to the Wailers that I co-produced, executive produced with Buddy. It hasn't been
What
released.
year was? Oh, it was. That's released.
It. That was like
So you
20.
come right back.
Right back, you know. It's a, like, but it's as you say, and that's how I feel. That I'm looking for investing. That this museum idea that I've worked with within Jamaica, trying to actualize it, that I am, my story is its own driver, its own storytelling. And that's how I developed the Dancehall Music Museum, was to really, when I say developed it, I registered it, trademarked it, everything, was to tell this story, even if I had to tell it. If the country doesn't want to tell it, if the players don't want to tell it.
Well, you just did. You just did.
And so Dancehall 50 conceptually becomes a driver for the Dancehall Music Museum for me. You know what I mean? To say, you know, another angle to promote it or to develop it.
In Dancehall 50 though, do you want to see other things happen all over the world to celebrate dancehall?
Yes,
And its experience. Because dancehall is more than Jamaican.
Yeah, it's more than Jamaica. It's directly linked in its articulation to all urban musics in the world, right? Because it's an urban music story, and the tools and the innovations that have come out of the urban ghetto experience is relating to all of these urban spaces. So whether it's like how they say Rastafari relates and reggae to the oppressive, you know, people wanting to throw off oppression in the world. Well, dancehall relates now to the urban revolution, the urbanization of the world. It has moved people from the rural to the cities and has created a unique, similar experience. Just like how hip hop is global, dancehall is aligned or as rooted as hip hop, pre-rooted, because dancehall on the other side of the coin has reggae. You understand? Dancehall is not separate from reggae. It's a coin. This is reggae. This is dancehall. And it needs its.
This 2024, we are going to be focused on dancehall 50. But in dancehall, it starts 74, 71. We're working on a time capsule, identified by you, but also the artists, because we're going to be interviewing more artists from that time.
Exactly.
Showing how this ghetto people take.
Yeah.
It's a ghetto song, and they can sing. And it has now become.
I was in Waterhouse. I told you I was in Waterhouse, and as they were touring Waterhouse for me with the musicality of Waterhouse, they drove me to a place called Wailers. I said, Wailers? They said, yes. This whole area is called Wailers because it has nothing to do with music. It had to do with the rude boy era of the Wailers. And a gang called Wailers, and they showed me the place where the gang was rooted. And based on that gang and their ethos, this whole part of, and this is from the 60s, this whole part of Waterhouse is called Wailers. So it's just that story, that
the
urban
music is
story.
directly connected to the streets, and the streets is the people.
It's the people.
And that exists all over the world.
All over the world.
It's
So
a common story.
common story.
The reason hip hop became popular all over the world is because they started doing songs and had artists like Tupac who were singing identifiable things with people all over the world.
All over the world.
They were talking about ghetto. Brazil has a ghetto, Jamaica has a ghetto, every country could think of a ghetto. And it just started.
And the sound system,
Exactly.
that's what gives us,
Street music.
no, that's what gives us the ownership.
Yes. Yes.
Because the innovation of the sound system is right here. And that's why the Dancehall 50 is tied in its mature.
In hip hop,
with the sound
turntables on a mic, which is the
which and comes from
yeah.
our innovation of the sound system. Yeah. So
I think it's a lovely story. I think it's a lovely cause, and I'm privileged to hear your story and put it out there and to help whatever way we can. So, one, get this packaged in several different ways in books, in the museum, and everybody's seeing it right now. We need support to build that museum. My choice is in Ocho where the tourists come on the ship. But Maxine might have other ideas to get when people land in Jamaica, they want somewhere to go. They want to know what the people are and how where they came from and what they used to listen to.
I had the whole island, like how the Isle of Man, the whole island is a museum.
Wow.
It's not a plate, the whole Jamaica. And I did a project, I did a proposal where we have a portal, say at Ocho Rios, where the ships come in. But when you go to that portal, it sends
Step
you
one, wherever you want to go.
go.
Yes.
And you,
Oh, that's lovely.
yeah.
That's lovely.
So that's another idea that
That's lovely. You could even put one of the turn the whole library, the
board
top Reggaeton library
Yeah.
into a dance hall. Because that strip is supposed to be an entertainment strip here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A strip from the stadium, but all the way down to the soldier camp. It was earmarked to be creative space.
Okay.
That's what it was built for. That's why the theater is there, school is
School
there.
is there, the library. Wow.
But it was never developed fully.
Jamaica really can be a creative country, meaning it's so. I have to do a Waterhouse program with you because that my mind was blown with Waterhouse. But right at the, I saw a bridge museum right at the square, the Waterhouse Square. You know, because it's so heavily trafficked coming from Spanish Town Road, going to Halfway Tree. You know what I mean? And I said, how could this become like a culture yard? And while I was there, I looked up and I said, oh, we just have to create a bridge museum. And then when I went on Google, I saw bridge museums all over the world. I said, wow, isn't that fascinating? Like,
and we cut there. This was good.